Hey, welcome back to Manotick StringWorks. So today on the workbench and in this video we're going to be working on this PRS Custom SE24. Nice flame maple top in black. The owner's brought it in for a string change with some elixirs, and he wants me to put on these new PRS SE Locking Tuners. So stay tuned, let's see how it all works out.
Welcome to Manotick StringWorks. Please remember to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell for more video content.
Alright, so we're going to get right at this video. So the owner has brought this PRS in for me to do a string change. We're going to use these elixirs, 9 to 42s, change the tuners to these PRS SE Locking Tuners, and do just a general, setup, check everything out. So as I like to do, we're going to check the electronics real quick, make sure everything's working. We have volume, it's a three-way selector, it's good. Middle position should be both, and that first position should be the bridge. Okay, and we have tone. A little noise, but that's the switch. That's not dirt. Yeah, okay. Well, that'll work itself out probably, or the owner might want a new switch down the road. We'll see. Just trying out some new camera angles, see how they work out. So let's set up a bass line here, see what this guitar is set up like now. Got a capo on the first fret, we're going to push down here at the last fret, and we want to see about 10,000ths of an inch at the 7th. So 3, 5, 7, right? Yeah, that's just scraping. Now PRS specs show it at about 8 to 9,000 at the 8th fret. So that's scraping there. I'd say the neck is maybe a little bit too tight. That's pretty good. But when we do the string change, we can readjust that after. But it's set up nice and low. I don't hear any fret noise or anything on the hard strum, so that's pretty good. Next we'll check this. So we'll check the string height now. PRS wants you to check at the 12th fret, somewhere between, it's about 4/64, let's call it, which is what I don't mind doing here. So checking at the 12th fret, there's a little bit of bounce underneath or on top of my gauge. And if I put the 5/64 under there, let's see. Now we're definitely scraping a little high there. So I would say that's probably a little bit high, and we can adjust those down a touch. How about I bring you along for the ride? Whoa! I love this swing arm I made. Alright, so we're going to look at the first fret action, or the nut action. So on a guitar like this, I like to see 18,000ths underneath the string in the top of the fret. Yeah, that's a little lower. Yeah, this is good. So this is probably around 16,000ths. And I can't strum without it buzzing, so it's definitely touching. Nice. So you can check by pressing down at the 3rd fret here and then you can see that, you know, the string is pretty much touching the top of the fret on the first fret. So it's nice and low. The nuts cut pretty well, pretty evenly. So that's good. So this bridge is floating. That's that's terrible, sorry. There we go. You can see that it's off the body, but it's nice and even with the body too. So parallel to the top of the body. Now, the player didn't include a trem arm, and I don't think he really uses it. And since we're changing the gauges, we're not changing gauge, it's going to be 9 to 42. This shouldn't move once we put the new strings on, so we're not going to do anything about the floating bridge here at all. So of course we're going to be adjusting the intonation after we do the string change, but I'm just curious as a baseline where we are. So let's look at the A string, get that in tune, do the harmonic, and the fretted note. That's pretty much bang on. Let's try the D. That's nice. So looks like the intonation is probably going to be pretty good, you know, where the saddle position is, so that's good to know. So the main reason the owner brought the guitar in was to have me install these locking tuners. They're PRS, so Paul Reed Smith locking tuners. They're supposed to be drop-in fit, which is good. And the owner's pretty excited to have locking tuners because he's not a big fan of restringing his guitar. So we're going to avoid all this, and we'll get these locking tuners on lickety split. And just before I change the strings, I'm just going to double check that we have 9 to 42s. Yeah, it's showing like 41.5. There's 42. So yeah, we should be okay. Okay, so cut these off, and they don't just push through easily. Just kind of hoping they would. Oh, we can get one. Oh, got one. Let's see if we can get another one. Yeah, they're tight in there, so I think we'll just basically, we're just going to take this back plate off. I don't know that's going to help much, but I'm going to take it off anyways. That way we can have a look and see what's going on in here. We've got 4 strings. Move this out of the way. Yeah, these get wedged into the block. Oh, there we go. Got one. They can get wedged in really nicely. You've got to really push hard. Sometimes you'll need some pliers. Yeah, these ones. This block is like a soft metal. So when those ball ends get tightened in there, they push themselves right into that soft metal. And the strings are a little bent, so they don't go out easily. So, all right, I'll fuss around with this for a few minutes. So struggling a little bit here for a few. I don't know what happened with these strings, but anyways, I've just got a small like skewer stick here, wooden. I was able to push. There we go. Push it down the ball end. Get it out. Wow. I've never actually had that problem before. So now with no string tension, you can see that the bridge is touching the body now at the back. Okay, so these are the locking tuners, and let's see what's in the box, right? So they should be a straight swap out as far as the mechanism goes. So you can see we've got a sealed tuner, we've got one screw here, and this nice turned brass shaft. Then we've got some hardware. Open this up. So we're going to have the ferrule. We have a washer. Now we might be able to reuse these ones, but they've supplied these, so we're going to do that. Then we've got, this is that locking screw that goes on top. I'll put all these things right here. What else is in here? Oh, we've got a screw, a tiny screw for the back of the tuner, the back of the headstock. There we go. So those are the component parts. And you can see here is the new tuner. So you're going to have the ferrule that's going to screw on there, obviously through the headstock, and the locking bit here at the top. So this, and if you can see the little hole here, that's where you put your hole through the post, your string goes through there, and you tighten down the locking screw right here like that. And you can use a flathead screwdriver or just by hand should be enough, and then you just loosen it up. So it's a different design, right? Instead of having a thumb wheel on the back of the tuning machine, it's just right there on the top. So, I don't know, different aesthetic, very simple. Alright, well, let's give these a shot. Alright, so we've got the ferrules out, get the washers. Noticing there's a polishing compound, it looks like. Yeah. Underneath these washers, the headstock. We'll wipe that off after. I guess while I'm here too, I'm just going to take off the truss rod cover. So if we do want to adjust truss rod once we restring it, it'll be off, ready to go. Okay, alright, let's flip it over. And now, just have to take out these screws, and then we can remove the tuners, one by one. Here we go. Alright. Alright, so from the back, both of these tuners, I mean, they look the same, right? So from the back of the headstock you wouldn't know the difference. Of course the difference is in the shaft. So one's a locking shaft and one isn't. And it looks to me like, yeah, they're pretty much the same height. The only difference is going to be that little screw that goes on top. So I like the brass bit though that's exposed, that looks nice. So these are supposed to just slide right in there like that. And I'm going to screw them in from the back first, and then we'll tighten up the ferrules and get them in position. Alright, I'll keep going. Okay, that's all of them installed from the back end. I'll just tighten them down snugly. And once we screw in the ferrules from the front, we'll be able to double check. I gotta say, I do like that brass look. Alright, so sequence, we're going to put a washer, and we're going to put a ferrule, and hand tighten that down. And then we can put on the little locking screw on top. Or we can do that last, but doesn't matter. I'll do the rest. I'm just going to use a 10mm socket here to tighten these up. So actually I'll take that off first. And this makes it easy. Snug them down, and you don't have to go crazy, right? Just get them so they're good and tight. Just hand tight here. I usually will go around after I string it up too and use the wrench and just get in there and tighten it up. These Stumac 10mm double-ended wrenches, the thin ones, so you can get under there. It's nice. So you can get some good torque on it that way. Alright, so now all we have to do is put these little screws on. And I'm not going to tighten them all the way because then you block the hole, right? Because really all it does is just compress the string down. So that would probably be my one criticism of this setup. Because there's an aesthetic, of course. Some people like or don't like this. But these little screws, like what happens if you don't tighten it down properly, or you forget to, or someone's fiddling around with it and it flies off? Now you're sort of pooched, right? Yeah. Well, there we go. All squared away, so the original non-locking tuners are right in here, so we don't lose any parts. Okay, let's clean up this fingerboard a little bit. Give a light polish to the frets before we restring anything. Yeah, look there. What's in there down? Right, let's check this thing. Okay, so we're going to use these 9-42s, and like any Strat style guitar with a trem system, you have to feed the strings through the back, so push them through the trem block. Sometimes they're a little fussy to get out of the saddle, but in this case it came out pretty well. I'm just going to keep the string out of the way and just move on down the line. So a little fussier than just straight through the bridge, right? Like a top loading situation, but when you get a trem system to work, it's pretty much what you need to do. So funny thing is, I found myself getting a little paranoid that I would lose these. So I actually did tighten them all down. So it's probably a good tip. Tighten these down all the time, even when there are no strings in the guitar or whatever. And that way you won't lose them. Alright, so like any locking tuner, so what I like to do is position the post hole in line with the nut slot. So we're going to back that out so we can get the string in. Okay. Now make sure you pull the string straight up through the block and that the ball end is seated in the block properly. I like to push the string down a little bit too over the saddle. So pull a little tension so it's straight, and then you tighten it down. Tighten it down good and stiff, and then up a little bit. And now I like to just put a little tension on. Make sure that I bend the string a little bit around, so it's straight through the nut slot. There we go. And that takes a little bit of the sort of the stretchiness of the string out. So I'm going to cut off this long tail. I'm going to leave about 2 inches just in case I need to pull this back or do some other work on it. It's easier to hold it, Just make sure you're tight. Alright. Okay, we've got all the strings in. I've tightened up the screws on top. Have a little tighter look. I think they look cool. I like that brass, like I said earlier, showing. They're definitely unique. You tell me in the comments down below what you think of these tuners. Alright. We've tuned it up, we've stressed the strings a couple of times. So now I'm going to let this sit for a few hours or overnight. I'm going to come back and check it. I did notice that the bridge floated back up again like it's supposed to, and it's nice and parallel to the body, so that's good. Alright, so we'll let this sit overnight. We'll come back and have a look at it and do a final setup. Alright, so here we are the next day. Tuned up the guitar. I've done some things off camera. So I've checked the neck relief. So now we're at 10/1000ths of an inch at the 7th fret. I actually had to sort of cobble together an Allen wrench using a 7mm bit. I didn't have one specifically for this guitar. So anyways, just a hex wrench, and I jammed a socket on there. So that worked. So we're at 10/1000ths. The height, so the string action, I adjusted to 4/64 using my gauge at the 12th fret. Sort of a good compromise between a Les Paul and a Fender. So Les Paul's scale is 24 3/4, Fender's 25 1/2, PRS is 25 inch. So 4mm across all 6 strings at the 12th fret works really well. Last thing I need to do here is check the pickup height. These are too high. So again, I like to see 1/8 on the bass side, 3/32 on the treble. Starting points, you can adjust them the way you like, but too close can make the sound a little muddy or the string not vibrate nicely. So start at these measurements and then play around with it, see how it sounds. Yeah, still too high. Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, still too high. So I'll keep playing around with that and adjust these heights. I also adjusted the intonation a little bit on the A string. That's the only one. All of them were in good tune, so that's nice. The bridge, didn't do anything with that, of course, so it is where it is. So all in all, the guitar is playing really nicely. It looks good. You know how I like PRS guitars. So last thing I'll check is just to see if there's any fret noise, string buzz, or anything like that. So on the bench or in the playing position, just go up all the frets. I'm not anticipating anything. I never like to have the action crazy low on these type of guitars. They're not really shredding guitars. I think 4/64 is about as low as I like to see any action, to be honest. Whether it's a Les Paul, a Strat, you know, PRS, that kind of guitar. All right, let's button it up and we'll be done. Alright, well, we're all done with this nice PRS Custom SE24, my black flame maple. So really, this video is about changing the standard tuners to locking tuners, and these are PRS locking tuners. They look pretty cool. They're certainly unique. You know, you can't tell from the back, but certainly from the top with the tuning posts. But that'll make this guitar pretty functional. So the setup is really good on this guitar, a few minor tweaks, but yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot, of course. So we'll see you in the next one. Alright, bye for now.